Part 1. The night that changed everything. The sound of rain tapping against the hospital window should have calmed Claire's nerves. But tonight, everything felt wrong. She stood frozen in the doorway of room 304. Her chest ached. Her fingers trembled. Inside, the man she loved, Jeremy, sat beside a hospital bed. He wasn't alone. He was holding the hand of another woman. Claire blinked, hoping it was a trick of the light. Maybe she was tired. Maybe she was imagining things. But the soft whisper she heard next shattered her heart into a million pieces. "I'm so sorry, baby. I should have never let her come close to us," Jeremy murmured, brushing the woman's hair back from her face. "But it's all okay now. I'll take care of you. I'll fix everything." The woman turned her head slightly. Claire recognized her instantly. Her best friend. No. Her former best friend. The betrayal stung worse than anything Claire had ever felt in her life. Her body went numb, but her mind was screaming. Jeremy was supposed to love her. They were supposed to have a future together. Just last week, he had promised to marry her after he got back from his business trip. So why was he here, crying over another woman in a hospital bed? Why was he telling her he would fix everything? And worst of all, why didn't he even notice Claire standing there? Claire took a shaky step back, her heels clicking softly on the cold hospital floor. The echo of the sound pulled Jeremy's attention. His eyes met hers. For a moment, he looked stunned. Then something worse happened. He looked annoyed. "Claire," he said flatly. "What are you doing here?" The way he said her name, it didn't sound like love. It didn't even sound like guilt. It sounded like she was a nuisance. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words stuck in her throat. Her eyes darted to the woman in the bed. Her best friend. The one who knew everything about her relationship with Jeremy. The one she trusted like a sister. "You," Claire finally whispered. "You told me you were on a business trip." "I was," Jeremy replied coldly. "Until I got the call that she'd been in an accident. I had to come back. She needs me more than you ever did." Those words hit like a slap. Claire's hands balled into fists. She felt the sting of tears, but she refused to let them fall. "I was the one by your side for 3 years, she snapped. "I helped you build your company. I gave up everything for you. And now you're telling me she needs you more?" Jeremy stood up, walking toward her with a look of frustration. "Don't make a scene here, Claire. She's still recovering. If you have something to say, say it later." Claire's heart finally cracked open. She had heard enough. That night, Claire walked out of the hospital and disappeared into the rain. She didn't know where she was going. Her phone buzzed with messages, but she ignored them. None of them were from Jeremy. She wandered until her feet hurt. Until her hair was soaked. Until her tears were mixed with raindrops. Then she collapsed on a bench in a dark park. A single thought echoed in her mind, over and over: "I gave everything. And they took everything from me." But as the sky thundered above her, something inside Claire changed. She wasn't going to be a victim. She wasn't going to cry over people who had lied to her. She was going to rise again. And when she did, they would regret everything. 1 year later, Claire stood in front of the tall glass building, her reflection sharp and cold. She had changed. Gone was the girl with a soft heart and big dreams. The new Claire wore heels that could crush egos and a smile sharp enough to cut steel. Her company badge read, Claire Whitmore, CEO, Whitmore Design Group. She had built something of her own, from the ground up. She had used the pain, the betrayal, the loneliness, and turned it into fuel. Now, she was back. Richer. Smarter. Stronger. And it was time to settle the score. Part 2. Shadows of the past. Claire's heels echoed through the marble lobby of the Sullivan Corporation. She walked with calm power, her expression unreadable. People turned to look, some admiring, some whispering. A year ago, she had walked into buildings like this feeling small. Now, she owned the room the second she entered. She stepped into the elevator, pressed the top floor, and adjusted the thin folder in her hand. Inside that folder was something explosive. Proof of betrayal. Proof of lies. And now, she was ready to use it. On the 30th floor, a secretary stood up nervously as Clare entered. "Ms. Whitmore," she stammered. "Mr. Sullivan, he didn't expect, he should have," Clare interrupted, giving a cool smile. "Tell him I'm here for our partnership discussion." The secretary nodded and quickly disappeared into the office. Moments later, she returned, looking pale. "He'll see you now." Clare walked into the office like she owned the place. And there he was. Jeremy Sullivan. Still handsome, still confident, sitting behind a desk that screamed power. But when he looked up and saw her, something shifted in his eyes. Shock. Then regret. Then, fear. "Clare," he stood slowly. "I didn't know you'd be the one from Whitmore Design." "Surprise," Clare said coolly, placing the folder on his desk. "We're about to become business partners. Isn't that funny?" Jeremy stayed quiet, watching her closely. "You've changed," he said finally. Clare tilted her head. "You haven't." "Still lying, still hiding things." He frowned. "That's not fair. You disappeared. You pushed me away." The room went silent. For a moment, they just stared at each other, old memories hanging in the air like ghosts. A year ago, Clare would have melted at his voice. Now, she didn't even blink. She opened the folder and slid a paper across the desk. "I did a background check before I accepted this deal," she said. "Imagine my shock when I saw who was on your board of directors." Jeremy's face tightened. She leaned forward, voice low and sharp. "Her. The woman in that hospital bed. My ex-best friend. You gave her part of your company. She's your advisor now." Jeremy didn't speak. He just looked down. "She's also the one who stole my design plans and pitched them to you last year, isn't she?" Clare pressed. Still, no answer. "I figured it out too late back then. But not this time. This time, I'm ahead." Finally, Jeremy sighed. "It was complicated." "No," Clare snapped. "It was selfish. You let her stab me in the back, and you held the knife too." Jeremy stood and walked around the desk. "Clare, I messed up. But she was in danger. She was being followed, she had problems, she's always had problems," Clare cut him off. "And she always made them mine to clean up." Jeremy's jaw clenched. "She needed help. And I needed loyalty. But I got betrayal instead." Her voice broke slightly, but she stood tall. "So here's what's going to happen. We'll go through with this deal, because it's good for both companies. But this is business now. Nothing more." Jeremy swallowed. "Clare, she held up a hand. "We are not friends. We are not lovers. We are nothing. Just two people who signed a contract." The words hung in the air like a final goodbye. That night, Clare sat in her penthouse apartment staring out at the city lights. The anger was still there. The pain too. But beneath it, something else stirred. She didn't just want revenge. She wanted answers. Why had her best friend done it? Why had Jeremy let it happen? What was the truth behind it all? Clare had heard whispers over the past year, rumors of money, danger, hidden debts, and even blackmail. She thought she had put it behind her. But now, she realized. It wasn't over. Not yet. Meanwhile, in a quiet villa on the edge of the city, a woman in silk pajamas laughed softly as she sipped wine. "Clare's back," she whispered, tapping her long nails on the glass. "How cute." The woman turned to her phone and opened a private message thread. Emily Young, she's back in the picture. I'll handle it. Like before. Then she typed one more message, Emily Young, she has no idea what she's walking into. Part 3. The web of lies. Clare sat alone in her office the next morning, surrounded by files, blueprints, and steaming coffee. Her eyes were red from staying up all night, but her focus had never been sharper. She couldn't shake off that one question, why? Why had Emily betrayed her? And why had Jeremy helped cover it up? Clare flipped through the old photos on her tablet. There they were, her, Emily, and Jeremy. Laughing. Celebrating birthdays. Posing at college parties. They looked happy. Like a perfect trio. But under those smiles, there had been cracks. Lies. Secrets. She tapped on one image and zoomed in. Emily had her arm wrapped around Jeremy's waist. Too close. Too familiar. Had it started even back then? Clare closed her eyes and leaned back in her chair. She had been blind. But not anymore. Later that day, Clare met with her assistant, Mina, a sharp young woman who used to work as a journalist. I need you to dig into Emily Young, Clare said. Not the usual stuff. Go deeper, past jobs, old connections, hospital records, travel logs. Anything strange. Mina blinked. You think she's hiding something? Clare nodded. No. I know she is. Mina gave a small grin. On it. Meanwhile, Jeremy stood in his office, phone pressed to his ear. Emily, we agreed to keep things quiet, he said, trying to stay calm. On the other end, Emily laughed. She came to your office, didn't she? That woman never knew how to stay in her lane. Don't start this again, he warned. We had a deal. You promised not to cause trouble. Emily's voice dropped. I promised not to expose you, Jeremy. That's different. Jeremy gritted his teeth. What do you want? Emily paused, then said, I want her gone. For good this time. That night, Clare walked through a small art gallery downtown. It was one of her happy places, a quiet escape filled with color and light. She wandered through the rooms, but something felt off. She sensed eyes on her. When she turned a corner, a tall man in a dark coat stepped out from the shadows. Clare froze. But then, he took off his hat and smiled. Relax. I'm not here to scare you, he said. Then who are you? My name is Lucas. I used to work for the Sullivans, until Emily had me fired. Clare narrowed her eyes. Why? Because I knew too much. About her. About what really happened that year. Clare's heart pounded. Tell me. Lucas looked around, then leaned closer. She didn't just steal your designs. She used them as bait. Bait for what? To trap someone powerful. Someone dangerous. Emily made enemies, Clare. And she used your name to do it. Back in her apartment, Clare sat on the floor with a notepad and pen. She wrote names, circled connections, drew arrows between them like a detective solving a puzzle. Lucas had given her more than just gossip. He had given her direction. A lead. He mentioned someone named Victor Lang. A name Clare had only heard once, in whispers during a business trip in Hong Kong. A businessman with no public record. A ghost in the corporate world. And apparently, Emily's silent partner. Clare stood up. She knew what she had to do. The next morning, Clare booked a flight to Hong Kong. She didn't tell anyone. Not Mina, not Jeremy, not even her lawyer. She needed answers, and she had a feeling she was getting close. Before she boarded the plane, she sent one text, to Mina, if something happens to me, find a man named Victor Lang. Start there. But back in the city, Emily was already 2 steps ahead. She stood in front of a wall covered in newspaper clippings, business cards, and surveillance photos. Her eyes locked on one image. Claire, walking through the gallery with Lucas. Emily picked up her phone. She's talking to him, she said coldly. Handle it. And make it clean. Far away in a sleek black car, a man with a scar over his eye read a message. Target confirmed. Hong Kong. He started the engine and whispered to himself, time to finish what we started. Part 4, Dangerous Truths. Hong Kong was a city of neon lights and hidden secrets. Claire stepped off the plane into the humid air, heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. She wasn't here for sightseeing. She was here for the truth. Her first stop was an old cafe in Mong Kok, the one Lucas had mentioned. The owner, an older woman named May, eyed Claire carefully as she sat at the corner table. I'm looking for Victor Lang, Claire said quietly. I was told he used to come here. May raised an eyebrow. You're not the first to ask. Claire leaned in. And what happened to the others? May wiped her hands on a towel, then said, they disappeared. Claire's breath caught. Why? Because Victor Lang doesn't like to be found. And neither does the woman who used to sit with him. Claire didn't even need to ask. She knew who May meant. Emily. That night, Claire checked into a small hotel under a fake name. She used cash. Kept her phone off. But she still felt watched. She double-locked the door, pulled the curtains tight, and kept a chair under the knob, just in case. Back in New York, Mina was panicking. Claire hadn't checked in for 2 days. Mina tried calling again. No answer. Then she opened her inbox and saw the message Claire had sent before flying out. If something happens to me, find Victor Lang. Mina grabbed her coat. It was time to break into Emily's shadow. In Hong Kong, Claire followed the next lead, a high-end nightclub in Central called Mirage. It was known to host elite guests, and sometimes, criminals with clean faces. Claire dressed the part, black dress, red lips, hair pinned high. The bouncer let her in without question. Inside, music pulsed like a heartbeat. Smoke curled in the air. And everyone wore secrets like perfume. She walked to the bar. I'm looking for Victor Lang. The bartender froze for a second. Who's asking? Someone who deserves the truth. The man looked her up and down. Then slipped her a napkin with one word, warehouse. Kowloon. Midnight. Midnight came fast. The warehouse was old and silent, surrounded by metal fences and forgotten crates. Claire stepped inside, heart racing. A figure stood in the shadows. Tall. Cold eyes. Scar over one cheek. You shouldn't have come, the man said. Are you Victor? He chuckled. No. I work for him. Then tell him, no, the man cut in. You need to listen. He pulled out a small envelope and handed it to her. Inside was a USB drive and a photo. Claire's blood froze. The picture was of Emily, with a man who looked exactly like Jeremy. But younger. And he was holding hands with another woman, not Claire. She's been doing this a long time, the man said. Stealing identities. Building empires on lies. Jeremy was just one of many. Claire stepped back. No. That can't be true. Jeremy didn't know. The man gave her a look. You sure about that? Back in New York, Mina had broken into an old account linked to Emily's company. She found emails, thousands of them. Some were sent under Claire's name. All of them were fake. Emily had forged Claire's identity to sign deals, shift stocks, and move money. And worse, she had blackmailed Jeremy into staying silent. Mina's hands trembled. She sent everything to Claire. In Hong Kong, Claire sat in her hotel room, USB plugged into her laptop. She clicked on a folder named Sullivan. Dozens of documents popped up, property deeds, signed contracts, legal threats. All of them forged. All of them connected to Emily. And Jeremy's signature was on almost every single one. Clare cried for the first time in months. Not because of the betrayal, but because she finally knew. It had all been a performance. The love. The partnership. The future. A lie. But Clare wasn't the same woman she used to be. She wiped her tears, closed her laptop, and stood tall. She had the truth now. And she would use it. Meanwhile, Victor Lang sat in a glass tower overlooking Victoria Harbour. Emily stood beside him, sipping wine. "She's getting too close," Victor said. Emily's eyes were cold. "Then let's end this." Outside Clare's hotel, a black car waited in the alley. Inside, the man with the scar loaded a silencer. Target confirmed. Part 5, the final showdown. It was dark when Clare stepped out of her hotel. She wore a plain hoodie, hair tucked under a cap, a flash drive in her pocket, and fire in her veins. The truth she carried could burn empires. And that's exactly what she planned to do. She didn't go straight to the police. Not yet. This wasn't just about law and justice. It was about reputation, legacy, and betrayal. Emily had stolen her life, her name, her husband. Now Clare was taking it all back. But Clare didn't know someone was watching her from a black car across the street. Inside sat the man with the scar. He adjusted his earpiece. "Target is on the move," he whispered. "Orders?" A voice crackled back. "Don't kill her." "Not yet. We need that flash drive." Clare's first stop was a local news office. She met with a trusted journalist, someone Mina had worked with before. "I don't have proof of everything," Clare said, sliding over the USB, "but this is enough to start a war." The reporter plugged it in. Eyes widened as files loaded, forged contracts, offshore accounts, emails between Victor and Emily, deals made with politicians, bribes, threats, and one shocking video file. They clicked play. Jeremy appeared on screen. Tired. Pale. Speaking to someone off camera. "I never wanted to be part of this. But she threatened my family. She made me lie to Clare." The video cut off. The reporter stared at Clare. "Where did you get this?" Clare's voice was calm. "From the people who wanted me dead." Meanwhile, in New York, Mina stood at the front of a press conference, holding a microphone with trembling hands. "We have evidence that Rachel, also known as Emily Young, built her company on identity theft, manipulation, and fraud." Gasps filled the room. Lawyers stood. Phones rang. Reporters swarmed. Emily's carefully built world was collapsing. But Emily wasn't done. Back in Hong Kong, she stormed into Victor Lang's penthouse. "You said this was handled." Victor poured himself a drink. "You said she was weak. Clearly, she's not." Emily slammed her fist on the table. "Clare has proof." "That video," Victor cut her off. "Then we end it tonight." He pulled out a black phone. "Tell him, if he can't get the drive, kill her."